Over the course of 6 months, this flagship Android phone has become perhaps the most confusing device I've evaluated long term in quite a while. And in the current crop of devices from all major manufacturers, including its own, it stands as an odd choice if you ask me. So let's talk about that. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and let's be honest, the flagship smartphone space right now is extremely competitive. You've got Apple, Google, Samsung, Xiaomi, OnePlus, Oppo, Vivo, Honor, heaps of others offering high-end devices for a big wedge of cash. But this, the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL, is an oddity in that list, even compared to the regular Pro. It seems to teeter on excellent and underwhelming, expensive but also not so, and great value to one person but terrible value to another. It's a very tough sell for most, with a select few probably finding it perfect. So let's get into it. It's been around for 6 months now, and it's seen its price drop in a few different regions on a few different stores. At $1,100 MSRP for the 128GB model, it really doesn't make a lot of sense based on its specifications for lots of people, but I've seen it at $300 off at Best Buy recently, making it a far more palatable package when compared with the likes of the OnePlus 13, Galaxy S25, and so on. Remember, this is a phone you can still buy in carrier stores in the US, and that counts for something. Because for your money, you aren't getting a device that was really ever high specs to start with, but what you're also giving up on is, for lack of a better term, future-proofing. Pixels are some of the first flagship devices to slow down after year 2 or 3 has passed, and since this phone, raw horsepower-wise, is far behind now, I can only imagine this is not going to get better going long term, compared with the likes of a Snapdragon powered device, which should do better. And though the performance day to day for most people, including myself, is going to be absolutely fine right now, that's not necessarily the case going forward. It's all well and good Google offering software support going into the next decade, which is what Google's doing with this, but if the hardware can't keep up, is there really much point? Of course, we still have to wait and see. Maybe Google has some long-term optimizations up its sleeve, since this is its own chip. Who knows? I wouldn't count on it though. It's also missing stuff found in cheaper flagships today, like a big silicon carbide battery, super fast charging, a big sensor under that telephoto, even stuff like UFS 4.0 storage, which has been the standard for over a year now. And sure, these individually might not matter all that much, but it all adds up to complete a pretty lackluster experience long term, and for full MSRP, I'm really not sure I'd recommend it. The battery life is decent, it gets me through a full day every single time. There's a nice big battery in here, and that includes having my Garmin connected permanently and then Bluetooth buds for about an hour per day. But the charging situation, it just feels outdated. 37 watts wide was never rapid to start with, but then you need a very particular kind of charging brick to work with it. In fact, I found a Reddit user who had done all the research and found which chargers work best with the Pixel 9 Pro XL. It's not as easy as just picking up any old 45 watt USB-C brick. You really need to dig into the details. I have to say, probably the best thing about this phone is its phenomenal display. Like, the one in the standard Pixel 9 Pro is pretty decent, actually it's excellent, but this just lets you enjoy it on a grander scale. It trades blows with the Galaxy S25 Ultra's panel for me as the best smartphone panel you can get right now. Of course, it's 120Hz, LTPO, but it gets super bright, which is crucial. I don't see this panel aging particularly badly at all. What an elite display this is. But then where Google was once head and shoulders above the competition in the camera system, it doesn't do that anymore. It's not the top of the charts. You've all heard me talk about the crazy camera systems coming out of China, and it's true that this setup, while still excellent, don't get me wrong, just isn't quite at that level. The sensor underneath that 5x optical telephoto camera is the same physical size as the main camera found in the Pixel 2 XL, so it can struggle in low light and with depth. The main camera is super reliable for sure, with the ultra-wide coming in to balance things out. What I will say is that the selfie camera is perhaps the best I've ever tested, and with Samsung and Apple battling it out with pro video features, the 8K video boost mode is looking pretty lonely on the 9 Pro XL. The thing is, since Apple and Samsung are also kind of stagnating in this area, Google doesn't look particularly out of place with its 9 Pro XL in this regard. And the pictures and videos it does take are still excellent. They're malleable thanks to the inclusion of Google's super first-party augmentation tools, and thankfully the Pixel look is still one that has a level of contrast in the photos, keeping them a little more natural compared to what you'll find out of the competing Samsung and Apple phones, which tends to flatten the contrast and colours in favour of more detail. So the Pixel 9 Pro XL is expensive at full price, but can be found on a deal. It's fast and high-end in its feature set, but not nearly as so as the competition. It takes photos with limited hardware and is made up for in software. The class-leading long-term support is counteracted by a chip that just feels a bit lackluster, and a storage specification that's, well, just straight up outdated. And it doesn't do heaps more than the cheaper and more comfortable standard Pixel 9 Pro, but costs an extra $100. This is going to be either the perfect phone for your use case or suboptimal in more areas than is really worth compromising on. If you upgrade your phone every no more than 2 years, want all the software features but not quite as much as the One UI 7, want those Google Pixel camera colours and want a device that looks great from the back, then the Pixel 9 Pro XL is ideal. Outside of that, I'm not so sure. Because with Xiaomi, OnePlus, Honor and others offering incredible phones this year, you've got to really want the Pixel 9 Pro XL to justify it over its contemporaries. A great phone, but not in a class of its own. I really like the Pixel 9 series this year. Don't get me wrong, the Pro is one of, if not the nicest phones of this generation, just in terms of design, and the XL delivers on all of those qualities, but on a grander scale. I'm just starting to wonder when Google is going to catch up in hardware. You know, the aging telephoto sensor, the UFS 3.1 storage solution. When is Google going to deliver up-to-date hardware in its, let's face it, expensive flagship smartphone? The Tensor G4 was a marginal upgrade on its predecessor, just in raw horsepower, so maybe later this year we'll see a substantial leap, you know, in the tick-tock of upgrades. I sure hope so. The Pixel 9 Pro XL is a tricky phone to recommend and one of the most confusing flagships right now. It does a lot well and seems to paper over the cracks with software. Let's see what Google has in store for us next year, because I'm hoping we get something just a little bit different. Let me know what you think of the Pixel 9 Pro XL in the comments, guys. I absolutely adore its design, especially this pink color. It just looks phenomenal. But with so many great phones coming out to compete with it at the moment, it's a pretty tough sell unless you're adamant you want this exact feature set. And let me know what your alternative recommendations would be to a big Pixel 9 Pro XL. I'd love to hear what you have to say down there. And whilst you are down there, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content, and of course, subscribe to never miss another upload. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I will catch you later. Cheers.